Wow. Where do we start? I mean, the obvious, let's start with the obvious. The play calling today was about as bland and atrocious and just straight up bad as you can imagine. Um, we're here now with James Lee from 843. Uh, you know, let's just get it out of the way. On the surface, when it happened, it looked like a decent enough hire because here's somebody who's already on staff, somebody who's been an NFL play caller, someone who's been a college head coach in the SEC, and a guy that coached the top rated offense in the NFL in 2015 with Cam Newton. But this year, we did the math earlier, 11.625 points per game thus far with Mike Shula. And it is, you are much more quicker on the trigger than I am, but 8 games in and I'm done. I've thrown in the towel. Mike Shula is just not going to happen. And if Shane Beamer doesn't make this change, then I think he is going to be on very, very thin ice with not only the fans, but Jeremiah Donati as well. And in fact, I told you, I've told a lot of people this since probably about midway through the third quarter. If I were Jeremiah Donati, I would have grabbed Shane Beamer right after the game and said, okay, 1 or 2 people are getting fired today. That number depends on you. So, but I don't know what Donati's going to do. I don't think Donati is going to put up with this. He certainly is not going to give Shane Beamer as long of a leash as Ray Tanner would have. I think last week the story was Lonnie Teasley being dismissed. In a lot of ways, there were obvious signs of improvement on the offensive line. But one area that really did not improve today was run blocking, particularly on the zone read. And that is, I think, the thing that people are so frustrated with right now. Mike Shula is married to the inside zone. And for whatever reason, today they just would not go away from it. And in short yardage situations, it was very inconsistent. And it was very bad down at the goal line. And I said this, and I'll say it again. I'll say it here on this. If Carolina had a competent play caller today, it's probably 17-14 Carolina at halftime, and at worst, 14-10 Oklahoma. But it was 14-7, and you just did not think that, or at least the feeling was inside the building, you felt like there was just no chance. That is the most deflated I've ever felt Williams-Brice at halftime in a 7-point game where you just feel like you are out of it. And you don't know how or any way it could change. And it didn't. And it ends up being 26-7. And just for whatever reason, Shane Beamer was emphatic today with the media that he's not going to make a change right now. He made the change last week. I applaud him for that. I think you applauded him for that. But at the same time, just look, the numbers don't lie. And let me ask you this, James. What is the goal of the offense? What's the number one goal for an offense to do?
I think you score points.
Yeah. And what's Carolina not doing right now on offense?
Scoring any points.
Exactly. And that is going to, and look, you and I are both Shane Beamer fans. We want him to succeed. We think he is good for this program. Clearly, when he got here, the biggest problem wasn't X's and O's so much. It was a culture problem. And he fixed that very quickly. And now the problem is the X's and O's because they fixed the culture. Recruiting is on fire right now, by the way. They've done very well in recruiting since Shane has gotten here. But there's no point in recruiting the best talent if you're not going to develop it. And right now, they're not developing it.
There's a lot I could say, and I don't want to get ugly. I don't want to get profane. I'll just sum it up as this: the level of ineptitude, coaching wise, especially from Mike Shula, this is a bounds to the Brad Scott era for me. Levels of bad. Other than the talent is much better, and like we said with Coach Beamer, he's upgraded the talent here. That's the maddening part here. To sit here 3-4 today, when we were a preseason number 12, if I'm not mistaken, team,
Got all the way as high as number 10
10.
after the Virginia Tech game.
which we now see that game was fool's gold. They were a very poor football team.
Yeah.
As was the other team that we blew out, Kentucky. But it's just we're having the same issues week after week after week. And I sold this to John last week, and I'll use this as an analogy. When somebody has a really bad wound, a lot of times you can't just cover it up with a bandage. You need something major like a tourniquet. We were in need of a tourniquet in the form of Mike Shula needed to be replaced as the play caller. There's no doubt about it, whether it is Mike Furry, Sean Elliott, or even if it's Davis Cutter, who's on staff as an analyst, who is, if you don't know this, Dirk Cutter's son, the former head coach of the Bucks. And I looked into him a little bit, and he's a bright young mind who, at only 27 years old, a guy I think would be capable of calling it as well. But not to get into the hypotheticals there, but the point is, you can't convince me there's not someone better on that staff that could call this offense right now. If you're Shane Beamer and you're going to say they need a new voice at the offensive line, what does the entire offense need? They need a new voice too.
They need a new scheme because
Yes.
look, again, love Shane Beamer. He's done a great job here so far. I'll say it, great, because he took over a very bad situation. When you have to fix a culture, not only look, this team was losing 8 game. This program, I believe, lost 8 games 2 years in a row. And yeah, albeit one of those years was COVID, but at the same time, you should be winning more than 2 games and 4 games in a season. But the problem right now is not so much culture, because the players, they all play hard, they all give effort, they all are they've got good chemistry with each other. The problem is just the offensive staff is not putting Carolina in the best position to win. Look, the offense that Oklahoma ran today, and look, it wasn't anything overly impressive. It wasn't overly creative, I would say, but it worked. It looked like kind of a run and shoot almost, but it worked. And Oklahoma was able to methodically move the ball downfield, and when they needed to, they put the game away. Carolina, on the other hand, just has not been able to get off of the mat. And it is just so frustrating because, and we've already touched on this, there is really good talent on this team, particularly on the offense. You've got Lenora Sellers, who I have said, and I will not go away from the fact that I believe he is the most naturally talented quarterback that South Carolina has ever had. You look at the ability he has running, the ability he has throwing, the ability he has to escape a sack. And when he is wrapped up and he can just take a guy and throw him off of him, and he can drop balls in on a dime, he can see the field well enough to know when it's time to take off. And yet, what we've been saying all year, especially since the end of the bye week, is that Shane and Mike have done nothing but waste this talent. You've also got an unbelievable crop of receivers who are extremely talented. Again, being wasted. Rasul Faison is not an inside zone guy. None of these backs are. Rocket Sanders was. There's only one Rocket Sanders. He ain't on this team anymore. And it's mind-boggling that they just continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting the same result. What's that the definition of?
Insanity.
You are correct, my friend. And that is what we are staring at right now. We are staring at an abysmal offense that's not getting any better. And for whatever reason, Shane Beamer does not seem to want to step in and make any adjustments. Okay, Lonnie Teasley is gone. That, again, we applaud him very much for that and think that was a very good call. But it's not enough. Look, a lot of what was happening on the offensive line last week and earlier in the year, a lot of that has been cleaned up, or at least it was cleaned up today. Carolina, I think, only had, 4 penalties? None of which, by the way, were on the offensive line. Look, you're going to give up sacks. You're going to give up negative plays from time to time. But, that's still, I think, more of a scheme issue than just something that the position coach can take care of. At some point or another, your talent has got to be put to use in the best way possible. And they're not doing that with this idiotic pro-style offense that is just not suited for the talent which you have. We touched on this earlier today at the game. This group is perfect for what Dowell Loggins wanted to do last year. And for whatever reason, Shula, look, there was creativity last year. Remember last year they talked about having a triple option type of attack. This year, there's none of that. And it is just mind-boggling and frustrating and at times stupid to watch this team and expect anything more than 1 or 2 yards a carry. It's just maddening right now.
We just looked at the box score, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me just pull it up to double check. But I believe it was 55 yards
Rushing.
The team rushing.
Yeah, no, it was 54.
It was 54.
54. Okay.
Yeah. Guys, I don't know how to sugarcoat this. I mean,
you can't.
That's not cutting it.
No. Now look, okay, some of that is Lenoris had -9 yards. A lot of those are sacks. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the sacks today were bad, really bad, because Lenoris can get out of the first tackle, but for whatever reason, and probably because the offensive line is not good enough to stop, 3 or 4 guys coming at him, but he'll escape a sack and then he gets taken down. He'll escape one guy, but then get taken down by 2 or 3 at a time, which, that's going to happen. But really, that's not what made a huge difference today. What made the difference was that, because, by the way, I think he took an 18-yard sack on one play. That was about the most obvious passing situation I've ever seen in my life. Oklahoma just pinned their ears back and came at him. Keep in mind, Oklahoma has one of the best defenses in the country, but at the same time, you've got to find ways to attack that. You've got to find ways to score. Again, 11.625 points per game since the start of the Mike Shula play calling era at South Carolina. At some point or another, you are what you are. And what Carolina is right now is a bad offensive team, and there's no escaping it right now, unfortunately. How you correct that? Well, there's no other way to put it. You have to do something, because last week they made a change. They corrected some of the problem, but not nearly enough. And right now, this team is hurting badly. And eventually, that old saying, Harry Truman had that sign on his desk. The buck stops here. The buck stops for Shane Beamer. So Shane Beamer has got to do something, or something is going to be done about him.
When you have a CEO head coach, the most imperative thing is to hire the right coordinators. 1 out of 2 of those he has done.
Yeah. 1 out of 3. Actually, 1 out of 4, if you want to count Bobo.
Yeah, I guess you could. But, I was more referring to Clayton White being a hit and Shula being a miss. But, yeah.
I was just going based on offensive coordinators.
Yeah, and I don't think DeCamillis has been bad by any means.
DeCamillis has been fine.
But what I would say, we've now had 3 offensive coordinators. 2 are the worst in school history, statistically speaking, and then Dowell Loggins, who by no means was an awe-inspiring hire, but a guy that I thought punched a little bit above the belt versus what I was expecting versus what I got. But when I'm looking at Dow Loggins, who I think the apex of his career was 9th and 10th in the conference, and it was a fine offense last year. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Our offense didn't cost us really any games other than you could say the slow start in the Alabama game,
Or
but
the LSU game with the turnovers.
right. But
Yeah,
but
the turnover. I'm sorry to cut you off, but the turnovers last year. That's about
yeah,
the only thing you can say that the offense has improved on this year as opposed to last year. The turnovers. They have not. They've taken care of the ball relatively well this year, as opposed to last year, of course. But nevertheless, last year they were doing something that helped mask the turnovers, and that's still scoring points.
and not to be snarky, but that's because they're punting so much this year.
Yeah,
They're not scoring.
they're
I
not
mean,
moving the ball.
yeah, we're not turning the ball over. That is John's factually correct in that. I mean, we looked it up, and Lenore's has thrown,
2,
was it 2 picks all year?
I think so.
Either 2 or 3 picks all year and 5 touchdowns. And yes, that is not a misnomer. He's thrown 5 touchdowns, including today.
Yeah,
5.
yeah.
So I don't know. With it, to me, it's just maddening because we had the program right where we needed it last year, and we were right there at the apex. Realistically, we all know we were snubbed from the playoffs, but that LSU game and that Alabama game, those are both games where just you wish you could have
They
that
haunted
back.
us. They're haunting us now.
Yeah,
Because you know something, if and you look at the Penn State situation though, but
yeah,
I would say this is that if we make that playoff last year, there is no pressure on Shane Beamer right now.
none.
Even with this, I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, there's pressure to make a change, but I mean, we're not talking about a job saving change that he would need to make.
The harsh reality here, and I don't mean for this to be a dump on Shane Beamer parade. Like John said it correctly earlier, we think the world of Shane Beamer. I think he's just an excellent human being. Like from all accounts, he is an authentic human being. He's a good leader of young men. I have no complaints from him in that department, but at some point, it's a business at the end of the day. I love the culture that John mentioned. It's great, and I love that the players love each other, and that's something that's been lacking around here. But at the end of the day, we just had a head coach who could not hire coordinators and ended up costing him his job. And now you've got a defensive coordinator who's doing everything he can to keep his team in the game. 2 weeks in a row now, holding a good LSU team to 20 and a good Oklahoma team to 26, with
24.
Which 2 points were safety our offense gave up. But and realistically, it wasn't like the defense checked out at the end. It was that they were physically tapped out.
Yeah, you can only do so much when your offense is inept, and that defense was absolutely gassed at the end. And yet, still, they only gave in the second half. Let's go back to the stats here. In the second half, Carolina's defense only gave up 10 points, and that was just in the third quarter. Those, like we said, those 2 points were given up on the offense. But it is just, and we touched on this again. I've never been at a game where we were up or down at halftime by only 7 and thought it was out of reach. But just the way that game started today, Oklahoma goes down, and here's what was really deflating. And big plays are going to happen from time to time. Carolina gets Oklahoma on 2nd and 10, and Oklahoma gets called for holding. And then on 2nd and 20, Oklahoma runs a draw that goes for 17 yards, and the next play they're able to hit one of those quick passes that they just destroyed Carolina on today, especially on 3rd down and short yardage situations, and they ended up driving down and scoring a touchdown. Carolina answers with a pretty solid drive that got down all the way as close as the 3-yard line. But then on 3rd down and goal from the 3, in another one of the, well, actually, it was in the shotgun, if I remember correctly, and they try another inside zone with Rasul Faison, and it gets absolutely blown up. And it's 4th down and goal from the 6. I applaud Shane for saying, let's go for it. We need to be aggressive. We can't win this game kicking field goals. Hindsight's 2020. You got to take the points there. And Sellers drops back, tries to find somebody. Play breaks down. He takes off, but is 3 yards short. That, I think, wrapped up that sequence right there. Explains the Carolina offense this season. You can get close, but you are not getting in. And it just felt like after that, you almost felt like it was out of reach. You hate saying that because it was only a 7-point game, but just you felt like you were just going to get more of the same, and that's exactly what happened. And look, even on the touchdown play, Carolina gets the ball, and I believe it was 2nd and goal and then 3rd and goal, both from the 1. And then again, a run play gets blown up, and it's 4th down and goal from the 3. Sellers does Sellers magic and finds Nick Harbor for a touchdown on a miraculous play that took only 3 yards to get. Now, granted, Oklahoma, I think, has the number 1 defense in the country. But at the same time, you just felt like it was not going to be enough because, and again, you follow that up with a defensive stand, you get the ball back, and you just do absolutely nothing with it on that last drive. Yes, Oklahoma is ranked number 1 in the country.
Just looked it up.
Yeah, but at the same time, you've still got to find ways to move the ball, and Carolina just could not do it today. And that was just so disheartening, not just for this game, but you look at what's ahead, Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. You think you're going to be able to move the ball on them? Absolutely not. So, yeah, it's just, it makes you want to pull your hair out.
It just gets old watching bad football. And you can tolerate it if you're seeing growth. I think John alluded to this earlier with the lack of development. It's different if we had a young team, we replaced our quarterback, let's say, and this is what has me worried about next year if nothing changes. Does anyone in their right mind think Sellers is going to skip, even if he's a late first-round pick, to come back to this crap?
Yeah, I don't see that happening, and I also...
Or he'd leave.
Yeah, I don't think Lenora Sellers will be back next season,
Nope.
Which, the only reason he would come back is to have one more year with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's one factor. But at the same time, I would say this. And look, we've harped on how Shane Beamer has been loyal to a fault at times. We saw it with Marcus Satterfield. We're seeing it right now with Mike Shula. But I don't think there's anybody in their right mind that would say, even Shane, I think, is smart enough to know you can't bring Mike Shula back next year. There's no way you can. I don't know if Mike Shula will even survive tonight. Like I said before, if I'm Jeremiah Donati, I would just pull him in, have a quick word that says, okay, we can do this we can do it like this. 1 or 2 people are getting fired tonight, and that number again depends on you. And if Shane wants to die on that hill, so be it. Again, love him to death, but if he's not going to do the things that are best for the program, then sadly he'll have to go. And that's for any coach. You don't want to do it because you don't want to hit the reset button. And again, James, you might think I'm crazy for this, but I think you might be in agreement with me on this as well. We are not that far off. A good play caller probably has us in playoff contention right now, as crazy as that sounds. But if Dow Loggins is here, who knows?
We're 6-1 or 7-0 right now.
You would hypothetically like to think that, but you certainly don't think you're 3-4 at this point. Yeah, just the inability to score points so far this year is what has held Carolina back. It isn't like there's been a game where, one night the offense is on, the defense is off. It's all been the offense or lack thereof. And that's what's just been so frustrating because, again, it isn't like they've got a bunch of scrubs out there. All right, you've got a guy at quarterback that, again, in my opinion, is the most talented quarterback Carolina has ever had, who was hyped up to be a Heisman contender at the start of this year. You've got Nick Harbor, Rasul Faison, Matthew Fuller has been coming on, Brian Rowe, who didn't see the field today, Donovan Murph, Mazio Bennett, Jaden Sellers, Jared Brown. You look at the tight ends, Jordan Dingle, Mo Brown, Brady Hunt. They've all had their moments this year. But for whatever reason, Mike Shula has not put together a game plan that can get them going for a full game. And it is just absolutely frustrating. And there is no way that he will be back next season. If he is, then I think Jeremiah Donati would have to step in and say, then we're hitting the reset button.
This was like, I saw Rickson Lane, our buddy Rickson Lane, shout out to Rickson. I saw a post from him on X where he said something to the effect that this offensive line looks like 1999. And then John and I, as we watched Mississippi State contend for this comeback here, but Rickson mentioned the offensive line looking like 1999. Well, I would say there's a lot of similarities overall to 1999, other than we have better players. And that's no disrespect to Anthony Wright. Anthony Wright was a baller. But
I wasn't a fan at that point. Was Wright on that team? I don't think he was.
He was the QB, and I think it was 90. Maybe he might have been 98.
Yeah.
But the 99,
that was also a 1-10 season, by the way.
You're right. 98 would have been when he left. So 99 would have been, I guess,
Phil Petty's first year. But
yep.
I think there was kind of a, not to go too deep into the weeds, but I think there was kind of a quarterback by committee that year.
Yeah, because it was bad.
It was yeah, but nevertheless, though, in 1999 they could have at least in some games scored points. We've talked about this at length before. South Carolina, since Mike Shula has taken over the offense, has not gotten over 21 points in a game yet. A lot of those now, look, you might say, well, wait a minute. They scored 24 against Virginia Tech. They scored, 34 against or 38 against SC State. Yeah, but a lot of those points were by non-offensive plays. You had some scooping scores. You had some pick sixes. You had 3 Vakari Swain punt returns for touchdowns. So right now, the offense is at an impasse, and it's just not going to get any better. I'm sorry. You are what you are at this point. You're 7 games in, and you are not a good offensive team because you do not have an effective offensive play caller. And until that changes, nothing is going to get better.
And the reason we bring up, wow, they're in field goal range.
Yeah, if you're listening to us right now, we're watching simultaneously while doing this. We've got the Mississippi State-Florida game on. There are 38 seconds left, and Mississippi State is driving.
Mind you, it was 23-14 Florida with about 2 minutes and some change left, if I'm not mistaken.
Mississippi State has made this a very intriguing ball game. But anyway,
they're in field goal range, actually.
But anyway, back to our game.
99. Yeah, I was talking about 99. Our offense should not resemble any semblance of that 1999 offense. And they might be worse somehow, if that's even possible. And for those of you that suffered through that with me, first of all, I'm so sorry, and you may be entitled to financial compensation for your pain and suffering. But I do want to say that, and I think John and I kind of touched on this earlier, I said to John in the stands today, there's no world that a 10-point deficit should seem insurmountable, but with this OC, it does.
A 7-point lead a 7-point deficit felt insurmountable today. You go into halftime down 14-7, and people are filing out of the game. Oklahoma on their first score of the second half kicked a field goal. People started filing out after that because nobody believes in this offense right now because of how inept Mike Shula's play calling is. There were at multiple times today in the student section, fire Shula chants going on. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say this, but I can't disagree with them. You and I watched what we saw today. And what we saw was an offense that could not get it going. It's like they're playing, it's like you're trying to run a sprint race with somebody, and yet for whatever reason you have cinder blocks tied to your ankles. And for whatever reason you don't want to untie them. So I don't know what the answer here is. And look, before everyone yells at their device here by saying, well, you got to fire Shula. Yes, we know that. I'm not referring to what the next step is. The next step is fire Mike Shula. But the step after that, do you fire Shula now? Do you wait till the end of the season? Because look, you and I have already talked about this. The goal that Carolina had set at the beginning of the year, that goal is long gone. That goal is not even remotely within reach now, which was college football playoff. Shoot, a bowl game might not even be in reach right now. Again, Alabama comes here next weekend. Great job, athletic department. You picked a great game for homecoming, by the way.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Why in the heck do we not pick Kentucky
Good question.
or Coastal?
Coastal is going to be, I believe, the salute to the military game, so I don't think they wanted to coincide those
NC
games together.
State,
No, that would be too early in the year. Plus, that was
I
also
guess.
Parents' Weekend.
I guess.
Kentucky would have been the weekend to do that.
Kentucky,
Maybe
yeah.
even today. But nevertheless, look, the bottom line is, and it's simple, really. You need to make a change with the play calling. You've done it before. Now, look, it was a lot of hush-hush behind it. There's no way Marcus Satterfield was calling the Tennessee and the season finale against, those unspeakables in the upstate. But nevertheless, just something has got to change. And we said this at the beginning. On the surface, hiring Mike Shula to be the head coach, or not the head coach, to be the offensive coordinator and play caller seemed like a very easy and good decision because you were just basically moving Dow Loggins out and moving Mike Shula in. And you thought, okay, Mike's been on staff. He's been part of this. So you would assume that it would just be a seamless transition. Well, instead, it has been nothing short of a regression, not just since then, but it's been a regression every week. I mean, it just seems like the offense continues to get worse, and that is very concerning.
Florida won the game, by the way, guys. It looks like they got a takeaway.
Okay. Yep. Victory formation for the Gators. What a shame. But anyway.
Darn.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, the offense, it's not only been bad, it continues to get worse. And I don't know what the answer is beyond firing Mike Shula. I mean, if heaven forbid Shane Beamer actually does make the move, and how poetic again would it be if he fired him tomorrow, 6 days shy of the Alabama game? If you don't know this, by the way, Mike Shula is not only an Alabama grad, he is Alabama's former head coach.
Not well liked there.
No, and we know that for a fact because, number one, my brother never speaks very highly of him, an Alabama grad. And last year when we were in Tuscaloosa, we were talking about, our college experience. We had Steve Spurrier. It was a lot of fun. And this fellow that we just started a conversation up with said, yeah, well, Mike Shula ruined my college life. And then we kind of laughed and said, well, he's an analyst for us. And he kind of looked at us like, well, you better hope he never becomes any more than that. Well, what do you know? He's become more than that. And that conversation has not left me. Not one bit.
Maybe I should have taken that random guy in Alabama a little more seriously than I did.
Yeah.
I thought it was just kind of set out of, like, I get it didn't work out. There's the head coach. And I'm like, oh, it's just sour grapes. Like, he'll be fine as an OC.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, here's another problem. Aside from his time in Tuscaloosa, Mike Shula has not been on a college football staff. Now, I get it. And I get it. I don't get it. Shane Beamer wants a pro-style offense. Why? I don't know. Because, this is college football. You should run a college offense. It's not going to kill you to do that. And by the way, you could be very successful with that. And is your job to get players ready for the NFL, or is it to win ball games? So I'm pretty sure it's the latter on that one. So, nevertheless, though, when you have somebody like Mike Shula on your staff, it's very questionable because, again, I'm fine with him being an analyst. The thing I'm not fine with is him having any direct input, major input on the offense as a whole. Last year, I thought the offense was very good, considering Lenoris was only a freshman in his first year. This year, in some ways, he's progressed. In other ways, he's not. I think a lot of that is play calling. I think a lot of it is also bad protection on the offensive line. One thing he certainly is not doing well with is when he is flushed out of the pocket and he runs out of room, he just runs out of bounds. He has got to start throwing the ball away.
And who taught him that? Because he seemed to throw the ball away with Dow Loggins last year. Just going to point that out.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't run out of bounds every single time, but he does it way too often.
Way too often.
And again, you put yourself behind the sticks. Not that you're really going to go very far ahead of them, but I don't know. Just, some NFL teams do actually run outside zone from time to time, but I don't know why Mike Shula is married to the inside zone. And yeah, I know Sean Elliott is the run game coordinator. I don't recall this many inside zones that they ran last year.
No, I don't either. The scheme is very, it leaves a lot to be desired on a lot of different angles. It's vanilla, it's boring, it's painstakingly boring to watch. I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. And I liked under Loggins last year the ability for Sellers to kind of freelance out there and make those improv plays. That's where he excels in a pressure cooker.
They harped on this way too much, and I think focused way too much on this in the offseason was the idea that Lenoris is not going to be used as a runner quite as much as he was last year. That's idiotic because that's one of your most effective weapons is Lenoris Sellers running the ball.
Who honestly is like, you know what? Lenoris Sellers is probably the closest thing we've had to Cam Newton. Who would take Cam Newton and try to turn him into Peyton Manning?
Well, apparently,
does that make any sense?
I would say Mike Shula, except for one thing. Mike Shula had Cam Newton and helped make him Cam Newton.
And he had Eli Manning also.
Something is clearly missing, and something is clearly off here. That's the real question. What is the mindset here of this offensive staff? What do they do in meetings? Like, what are they watching in film that makes them say, this is what we need to do?
He says every week, I hear the post-game press conference and I hear the teleconference.
The Wednesday. Are you talking about Shane or are you talking about Shula?
I'm going to get to Shula, but what Shane's saying. He keeps saying we have great practices. I saw Rob Prophet shout to you, another guy I know that posted this on X. He said, can I pay admission to come watch this practice where the offense is supposedly good? Because it's sure not showing up in the stadium on Saturday.
Yeah, what they talk about, what they see in practice, that's great and all, but guess what? We don't see what they see in practice. We see what we see in the games. And by the way, the games are where it counts. And it's not happening. Clearly, I mean, 17, 14, 10, 7. At some point, we're going to start getting to 0. And if I hear that, we're doing good things again, and it gets to that, then, again, I was playing this song on the way out of Williams-Brice today. Banger by, who is it? Motley Crue?
Yes.
Some heads are going to roll.
Yes, Motley Crue.
Yeah. Some heads are going to roll, and some heads need to roll. I'm glad that they started with the first domino last week with Lonnie Teasley, but there are more heads that need to roll. And Shane needs to get away from being married to this pro-style offense because it's not working. And there's no need to try it because it's not going to happen. It's like fetch. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think if I hear pro-style or NFL offense again, I might start projectile vomiting somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's not working. Shane's got to realize this. I'm going to say this very bluntly, and I hope this gets to him somehow. He's got two options at South Carolina. If he's afforded the option to come back next year, I hope he is.
I think
But
he
if he's
will be.
but if he's not, I mean, if he is, I want him to listen to this. You have one of two options, Shane. You can either be married to the pro style and die with it, or you can adapt with today's college football and be our head coach for a long time and have great success here. The choice is yours.
One of the biggest problems with this program has been the fact that so often we keep having to hit the reset button. Some of those are warranted, some of those not so much, i.e., Jim Carlin. And, it just makes you so frustrated because winning programs do not constantly keep changing head coaches every 4 and 5 years. Now, they don't have to change coaches because those coaches are winning. So, and look, Jeremiah Donati has a lot of pressure on him right now because he's in his first full calendar year as the athletic director, and we've seen it before. This is the same guy that fired Gary Patterson from TCU. And a lot of people were up in arms about that. They did not like that. And I guarantee you they still don't like that. But they didn't say very much about it when the very next year they're in the national championship game. They're not just in the college football playoff. They are in the national championship game. I don't know what it's going to take here. I don't know if it can be Shane Beamer or not. I hope it is because, again, we've touched on this. We love Shane Beamer, but we love winning more. And right now we are not winning.
It really makes you wonder. It's kind of like, I think I might have said this before, but it's kind of like on Office Space whenever they were coming in and they were asking, what exactly do you do here? And that's kind of my question to Mike Shula. Like, what does he do here? Do they practice anything?
Maybe he's just a Michael Bolton fan.
Yeah, big Michael Bolton fan. Yeah, his music's great.
Yeah, when he did When a Man Loves a Woman. I mean, wow.
Yeah, he's great.
You got to laugh or else you're going to cry.
I go by Mike now.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
One of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, but unfortunately there are too many mics right now that we're having to worry about. Yeah, just next week, Alabama. Any reason to have hope?
I'm searching for it. I feel like I need to bring my Pepto Bismol next week because I'm sure I'm going to suffer for some heartburn and some heartache.
Yeah,
but I'm hoping that we can pull some rabbit out of the hat. But just the hope is fading fast, and the tunnel, we were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel last year, and it just keeps getting darker, and it seems like the space is closing in, and you're just grasping for optimism and just hoping and praying for the best.
Again, that is what is so frustrating right now with this program because, again, last year, this program, we were that close to being in the college football playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just trying to see, can we even make a bowl game this year with a lot of the same talent? It's not like you had a mass exodus on offense and, there's nothing you can do about it because now you have to hit the reset button on offense. No, a lot of those guys, including your quarterback, are back. You lose a top-rated running back. Okay, I'll give you that. A top-rated tight end. But other than that, what was it, one senior receiver last year? I think maybe not even.
Gage Larvin.
That's number 15.
Oh yeah, Delvon Campbell.
Yeah. Who,
I'm
by
not
the way,
sure if Campbell is still on an NFL roster or not. But
I think he's on a practice squad right now.
Gage has been back and forth on the roster.
Yeah, with the Browns.
Yep.
But that is where we are currently. And again, we have sounded like a broken record tonight. Very, very much feeling like this talent is being wasted. Not just Lenora Sellers, But I mean, you fight so hard to get Rasul Faison eligible. He's being wasted. You fight so hard to get Nick Harbor going, who, by the way, if you haven't already heard and forgot, he did not run track last year so he could focus on football. He's being wasted.
To get 4 receptions.
Yes. And what, 2 touchdowns, I think, or 3 touchdowns maybe? No, I think it's just 2. 1 against Virginia Tech and 1 today. Am I missing one? We'll have to look at the stats on that. But bottom line is, and look, the defense has been not quite elite, but they have been great this year. And to do what they did last week against LSU, and then to keep you in the ball game from a theoretical standpoint anyway, to keep, and by the way, don't forget, one thing that you got to be worried about, but something you have to be extremely proud of Carolina's defense for doing today, they held Oklahoma to 24 points. I believe 10 of those were only in the third quarter. They did all that without Dylan Stewart, who went down, I think, on the second drive. He tried to give it a go again and then took a shot in the hip. So you got to hope he's okay going forward. But again, talent being wasted because your offense cannot get out of neutral. Forget first gear. They're not even in neutral. They're stuck in neutral right now. Shoot, they might be stuck in reverse right now.
They had a blown head gasket. The whole motor's got to be replaced.
Yeah. And we'll see. It is 8:01 on Saturday night, October 18th. As we saw last week, you never know what might happen on Sunday. But if you're hoping for change tomorrow, I'll just tell you, you never want to say never, but I will tell you emphatically, do not hold your breath.
Yeah, we're kind of, I see we're kind of getting to our arrival, our closing point here. So I want to bring up this term real quick. We're at a real inflection point right now in Shane Beamer's tenure. It really is reminiscent of the 2018 Florida loss with Muschamp when we blew the big lead in the swamp and ended up losing that game 35-31. That was one of those games where
that's your jump-off point.
That was your jump-off point, and you wonder, was it the Vanderbilt game, was it the LSU game, or was it this one, the final nail in the coffin? And hopefully not. You hope you can bounce back from it, but you've also got to realize that the stadium cleared out today. That was unacceptable, and I'm not blaming the fans at all. I do not blame you guys.
No, why would you stick around and watch a horrible product like that?
We're just gluttons for punishment.
Yeah, apparently.
But I don't blame you guys for leaving, so please don't take it that way. But it's embarrassing when our stadium's clearing out in the third freaking quarter because we have no offense and our fans have given up on our team because
didn't even sell out today, by the way.
No. And how bad is it going to be next week?
From a ticket sales standpoint, not so bad because Alabama fans will gobble those tickets up.
Yeah. It just makes you think, though. It's like we said, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's just like Shane Beamer's got to see what is in front of him. And if he is going to be Mr. Stubborn Pants and say, I'm not going to do what I clearly need to do, then unfortunately he's the captain of the ship. The ship doesn't just float down the river without a captain. It sinks. So he's got to realize, does he want to steer this ship and take command of the ship, or does he want to hit an iceberg and sink the Titanic?
Are you going to, and what happened to the captain on the Titanic? He went down with the ship.
He went down.
But, that again, I don't think anybody in their right mind believes that Mike Shula will be back next year.
No.
The question now becomes, will Shane pull the plug now, or will he just let it ride out until the end of the season and do it? And if he does that, though, does Jeremiah Donati say, buddy, I don't know what you were watching, but you needed to make a big change a lot sooner than you did. And, no telling what might happen with that conversation. But, again, I am of the opinion I think Shane should be allowed to come back next year. but he's got to make some wholesale changes. There's no question about that. If he's not willing to do it, then he's got to go.
I'm really on the fence on that one because my part of me says I want this guy to be the one to fix it because I like him. Uh, eh, I know the argument against it, and I'm going to tell you why I both agree and disagree with this argument. So everybody's going to say, why should he be given the chance to hire a fourth OC? That I do agree with. I'm going to tell you the slight reason I disagree with that. I don't think he failed with Dow Loggins, but I don't think he was great. But I don't think he failed with him.
And by the way, we have to say fourth because his first offensive coordinator here was not Marcus Satterfield. It was Mike Bobo. That only lasted for 2 weeks.
Correct. And
that's not on Shane.
Technically, Marcus Satterfield left on his quote own accord to go to Nebraska. And then obviously Dow Loggins did leave on his own accord because he got a head coaching job at App State.
Correct. I don't think there was very much resistance to Marcus leaving, though.
Whereas I think if Dow Loggins doesn't get that job, he's your OC again this year. I don't think there was any chance he was
Absolutely
fired.
No question.
He shouldn't have been fired.
No. He wouldn't have been fired. No question about that. If anything, he probably gets a promotion and gets a raise.
So that's kind of why I say and if that makes sense, John, that's why I say I kind of agree with those of you that say, hey, he shouldn't be able to get another chance to hire an OC, but I also disagree in the extent of Loggins really wasn't bad, and I think the offense was finally starting to turn the corner, and they could have been special a third year with him.
Absolutely.
And I'm no Dow Loggins super fan, but I think I was one of those people that started saying, I at least get the vision, I get the plan here, and his offenses, say what you will about him, they were organized.
Yeah.
This is total chaos right now.
It moved. The offense moved, aside from the Ole Miss game last year, but I think there were a lot of factors in that ball game. Both Lenoris and Rocket were hurt in that ball game and just were not effective. But looking at this going forward, and look, this is why I think Shane should be allowed one more opportunity, because we've seen how close we can get with the right people in charge. I think he's capable of hiring the right people. And again, you don't like hitting the reset button, because if you do that, then you are going to see a mass exodus of really talented players, whether they're going to try their luck in the NFL or hit the transfer portal, which will happen regardless now. We live in the day and age of this, the wild west of the transfer portal. But nevertheless, you like having continuity. And that's what would have really been nice if Dow Loggins had come back, just the continuity. Mm-hmm. You don't have that right now. And yes, you are going to have to hit that reset button on the offense at the very least. If you decide to move on from Shane Beamer, there are candidates out there, but I'll say this, you better be careful when you make a head coaching hire. But let's not get into that right now. Let's just kind of focus on what's at hand. Again, I think for me, well, the nail in the coffin, I think, happened for me was probably before this, but if there was ever a sign that the nail in the coffin had been sent home, it was on that safety, because that's just kind of a culmination or kind of a microcosm of the Mike Shula era here. And again, it's not like a lot of those offensive coordinator hires that we've seen yet, because the hilarious thing is you and I were both on board with that hire when it was made.
The Shula hire?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It made sense on paper. And and what you talked about with continuity, he was already the analyst.
Yep.
And from what I was told, there was going to be a lot of bleed over and not a major wholesale change from the Loggins offense.
And unfortunately, it's just been a steep regression from the Loggins offense. I saw a tweet today during the game. I think it was it was right after the first drive of the second half, where it was inside zone, and incomplete pass. Someone said, for Mike Shula to have a play sheet that big, he only has, seems like, 2 plays on it. So when you're not creative and when you're very predictable like that, a change has to be made. So, again, the final today, Oklahoma 26, Carolina 7. Next week, homecoming Alabama. We will talk again, and if there is a change that is made, we will cover it and we will be all over it. But until then, we will probably not be talking to you again for the next 7 days. October 25th, 3:30, Gamecocks versus the Crimson Tide.